Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my April reading wrap-up. I can say that April was a good reading month for me, but it was not really great because the first half of the month was really good for me because I was picking up wonderful books and reading them continuously and I was enjoying almost each and every one of them. All of them were really good books. But after that, from the 15th of April to the 20th, I just fell into a slump and I was not that much interested or inclined to read anything that was even interesting for me. So I can say that the second half of the month was kind of a drag. Yet as a whole, I read a lot of really good books. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. Starting with the physical books, the first book which I finished is The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner. This is a book that was nominated for the Man Booker Prize in 2018 and it was also shortlisted. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to read this book. Also, the plot of this book is very interesting. Here we follow a main character, Romy Hall, who is convicted of a crime and she is admitted into this prison called Stanwell, where she is to serve 2 consecutive life sentences. And the thing about Romy is that she is not a single person. She is a mother, and because of this, she has left her child under the care of her own mother outside. The whole book, I can say, is not about getting towards the climax and getting to know what happens towards the end, but it is about the discussions and conversations that we will have along the way that we read the book. I can say that the author has represented a lot of things while she has written this book. There are multiple things that go on inside the book, and I can say that I liked each and every one of them because I have not read anything like this before. Here we get to see things like politics that happen inside a prison and the type of relationships that prisoners start to develop between themselves, the grey areas and the crimes that a person has committed and the reasons why they are put behind bars because of some loopholes that exist inside the law. There are also some moral values that are discussed inside the book which are definitely changing from each and every person's point of view. There are also some discussions when it comes to the gender identity of people, where trans people are wrongly put into the prison that belongs to a different gender. If any of the things that I talked about so far interest you, I'm sure that this book will be a really good read for you. I cannot say that I enjoyed the book, but it was a really good experience, so I rated it 4 stars. The next one is An Abundance of Katherines by John Green. I can say that this is one of the most funny books that I've read so far, and I'm very glad that I read this in the first half of the month because it is one book which just kept me reading continuously in that first half because it was so much fun. Okay, I just finished reading this book in a single day. The whole time I was reading this book, I was just enjoying it completely and laughing out loud in many instances. The whole book is just kind of a road trip like Paper Towns, but this one is far better than Paper Towns for me because I hated that book so much. Here we follow our main character, Colin Singleton, who's been dumped 19 times by these different girls named Katherines, hence the title of the book. Just like any other of the John Green books, this is also very quirky in its tone, and I can say that if you're a young adult, I'm sure that you will enjoy reading this so much because the main character here is transitioning from his high school into college life, and it's just that brink that he's crossing, and the way in which John Green has written it, along with the friendship banter that we see here, is really nice. If you want a quick fun read, I'd highly suggest you to try this because I enjoyed it totally and I rated it 3.75 stars. The next one is a young adult sci-fi book and it is Gemina by Amie Kaufmann and Kristoff, which is the second book inside the Illuminae Files series. I read the first book Illuminae in 2018 and I reread it in January this year. After that, I just wanted to pick this up in March itself, but because of various reasons I did not, and finally I picked it up in April and I can say that I enjoyed it the whole time. Okay, this was far better than I expected it to be. I actually started listening to the audiobook of this one also far back in 2018, but during that time I did not like it at all and it was very boring for me. But when I read the physical book, it was so amazing. Okay, here we follow our 2 main characters, Hannah and Nick, who are trying to save the space station called Heimdall from some of the intruders that have taken over the ship, and they are trying to destroy the entire ship itself. I can say that it was very fast paced and completely action packed. Okay, if you're a person who likes a lot of fight scenes in your books like me, I'm sure that you will enjoy this completely. That was the small chunk during the first half of the book where it just felt like our main characters were just running away from the antagonists continuously, but other than that, I don't think I have any other issues with this book at all. I definitely want to read the final book and see how the first book and second book and characters from the first book and second book come together and wrap up the series in a proper way towards the end. I've heard that the series just goes downhill from book 1, but this one was nearly just as good as Illuminae for me, so it was definitely a great read for me and I rated it 4.75 stars. The next book is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I wanted to read this book in the beginning of this year itself, but again because of various reasons I did not, and finally I picked it up for a 24-hour readathon which I did in April and I read it in a single day again. I can say that the plotting and pacing of this book was really perfect in every way if you ask me, because I enjoyed it the whole time. There was not a single point in the book where I felt bored in any way at all. It is a combination of both historical fiction as well as mystery because we follow 2 different plot lines, and the way in which both of these plot lines emerge towards the climax and how they make sense together is the beauty of this book if you ask me. When we start to read both of these plot lines, there is no common point except the location of London that seems to be similar to both of the plot lines, but towards the end how both of those collide together and how all those things make sense is something which was very beautiful about this book. I had only one issue with this book if you ask me, and it is that all the male characters that were shown here were just shown in a very flat negative tone, and I did not like it about it at all. Other than that, I don't have any issues with this book. As a whole, it was a really good read, and I rated it 4 stars. The next one is my most favorite read from April, and it is Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. Here we follow our two main characters, Will Grayson and Will Grayson, who are written by our two different authors in alternate chapters, and the way in which both of these Will Grayson's lives collide together, even though they are completely different from each other in every way possible except for their names, is the beauty of this book if you ask me. It is insanely funny, okay? There is not even a single chapter in this book where I did not laugh out loud. I was continuously laughing, and sometimes it just felt like I am laughing so much for this book and it's going to break my heart towards the end. But trust me, it is definitely not like that, okay? It is a really wonderfully written, feel-good book, and the ratio in which both of the authors have provided for the story is just super awesome. I loved both of our main characters in this one. I can say that I like David Levithan's main character a bit more than John Green's main character, but other than that, there is no issue about this book at all for me. I enjoyed it the whole time, and I'd highly recommend everyone to read it because it is so much fun. There are also some things that John Green as well as David Levithan expressed with their characters in this book, and it was very well done if you ask me. For a young adult book, I did not expect this to be this good, but it was amazing. It's definitely my most favorite John Green book after Turtles All the Way Down now. And another thing which I want to say is that I've done a video inspired from this book where I talk about some of my favorite first lines from the books that I've read so far. That video will be coming out really soon, so do look out for it. I'm sure that it will be very fun. So yeah, this is my most favorite book from the month, and I rated it 5 stars completely. The next one is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor, which is the second and final book in the Strange the Dreamer duology. I started this as the first book in April, that is on the 1st of April itself, but I finished the book on 28th April only. It took me 4 solid weeks to finish this book. It is not in any way that the book is slow or anything. I just wanted to consume the story very slowly because I was not able to continuously read it at all. There was something that was nagging me from the back of my mind. Even though the book was good, that I wanted to keep it down for a while and then pick it up later. Between reading this book, I finished almost all of the other physical books that I'm talking about in this video. Since it's the second and final book in the series, I cannot talk a lot about this without giving away spoilers for the first book. But trust me, if you've liked Strange the Dreamer, you are in for a treat in this book because I liked the way in which the author has explored a lot of things and the way in which she has represented some of the things that she has thought of representing here. The way in which war is depicted by the author in this book and the way in which it can be handled by us human beings because we are human beings is really good. The way in which the author has taken the stance of not taking violence for an option for anything was really stunning for me because there are such high stakes in this book, but there are no instances during which our main characters go out of their nature and do something stupid at all, even though they are young adults somehow, was very astonishing for me. It just built up the stakes really good, and the way in which she provided the effect towards the end was also brilliant if you ask me. I cannot say that I enjoyed this completely as much as but I definitely did like it very much. So I rated this 4.75 stars, and I'm very glad that I finished this series. We have 2 different non-fiction books also. Of these, the first one is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiosaki. This is one of the books from my non-fiction TBR for 2022, and I'm really glad that I read it at last because I've been wanting to read this for the past few years itself. I started reading personal finance books actively from the second half of last year only, and I'm very glad that I read it at last because this is one of those classic personal finance books that everyone needs to read in my personal opinion. I'd not suggest you to start with this. I'd say you to read something very low and easy in tone like 13 Steps to Bloody Good Wealth by Ashwin Sanghi and Sunil Dalal. I read that book last year and it was very easy to understand. After that, I can say this one because even though the book has a lot of jargons in it, the way in which the author presents it to us is very understandable in every way if you ask me. I can say that 70% of this book is super easy to grasp. You need not even try so hard not to understand it because it is very well explained by the author. The rest 30% takes a bit of effort for you to read actively and deeply and get the thing that he's actually trying to give you. As a whole, I can say that this book has increased my knowledge in terms of finances than how it was before, and I enjoyed it completely, and I rated it 5 stars. The last physical book is When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. I won this book in a giveaway last year towards the end. I just read it in a single day again and it was awesome, okay? The writing of this author is just brilliant in each and every way possible, and the way in which he has narrated his own life story is really amazing. I was actually showing the tabs here because there are multiple things which I highlighted in the book, and I'm sure that I will be going back and looking into them continuously in the future because it was very inspiring in many ways if you ask me. Medical memoirs in specific are itself some things which just inspire me a lot because I wanted to pick up to a doctor when I was young. If you've been following me from 2020, I'm sure that you've heard me talking about This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, which is the medical memoir of that author. I can say that this was just as good as that one. Okay, even though they are very different in tone and different in the thing which the authors have specialized in, they were very similar in the tone when it comes to being medical memoirs, and that is the thing which I just loved about this book so much. And the writing of the author was brilliant in each and every way possible. There are multiple instances during which I gasped while I was reading this book, and it was just amazing in each and every way. I rated it 5 stars. Moving on to the audiobooks, the first one which I finished is Call Me By Your Name by Aciman. Here we follow our two main characters, Oliver and Elio, where Oliver goes during his college holidays to Italy and spends some time in this house over there while he's trying to get his book published. And the relationship that is developed between Oliver and our other main character, Elio, is the central core of this book. It is basically a romance book, but the way in which the author has expressed the obsession of one character over the other in this one is just amazing in every way, if you ask me. I cannot say that I'm a fan of this kind of writing so much because there were multiple lines inside the book which did not make any sense for me because I'm not that much inclined to that kind of writing. But the character work was awesome. At the same time, the relationship between the two characters was expressed really beautifully by the author. I've actually watched the movie of this book last year, and the movie was just excellent in every way. The book was also just as good as the movie, except for the writing, if you ask me. I was not that much inclined to the writing, and this one also has a sequel called Find Me. I think I'll be listening to that one also as an audiobook, but I'm not sure when. As a whole, this was a really good book to read, and I rated it 3.5 stars. Next one is the book club pick which I read in April, and it is Playing Nice by J.P. Delaney, which is a psychological thriller. Here we follow two families. The first one is Pete, Maddie and their son Theo, and the second one is Miles, Lucy and their son David. What happens on a particular day is that Miles comes to Pete and Maddie's house and he just drops a bomb saying that both of their children were interchanged as babies when they were delivered in the hospital itself, and both of these couples have been bringing up the child of the other couple for the past 2.5 years. You can see that the things that has happened to both of these families is very twisted in each and every way possible, and how it can affect the family as a whole and also the children when they are to grow up. I can say that the writing of the author was amazing in each and every possible way. At the same time, the pacing was excellent. I'm so glad that we chose this as the book club pick for April because it was excellent in each and every way possible. If you're a person who likes psychological thrillers or just thrillers in general, I'd highly suggest you to try this because it was really awesome. I rated it 4.75 stars. The last book in this list is definitely a very exciting pick because many of you guys have been asking me to read this series for the past few months continuously. Okay, in each and every live that I've done so far, there is at least one person who asked me whether I've read this series or not, and it is Percy Jackson. Okay, so I read the first book in the Percy Jackson series, which is The Lightning Thief, and I can say that I enjoyed it so much. Okay, the only reason why I was hesitant to read the series is because it is middle grade and I'm not that much used to reading middle grade books because I don't read them as much. I read children's books at times that are written for like 5 or 6 year olds, but when it comes to middle grade books, I have not read that much. It does not have all the logic that I always expect to when I'm reading fantasy books, but the way in which the author has written and the things that he has used in his main characters to represent and make kids who read them feel at home was really amazing. Okay, I liked each and every one of our main characters here, especially Percy because he was like super sassy for a 12-year-old, and I'm definitely interested to see how the series progresses on. I've actually started listening to the second book, which is The Sea of Monsters also. I definitely did enjoy this and I'm very sure that I'm going to finish the series as a whole. Let's just wait and see how it's going to go. I rated this one 4 stars. So yes guys, those are all the 11 books that I read in April, and most of them were really amazing. Don't forget to leave your April wrap up in the comments below because I'd like to know what are the books that you read and also get some recommendations from you guys. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.